In this video, we're going to focus on how we can create this nice crosshair here with a circle in the center, and if we move here, as you can see here, once we move a certain value, it changes color. So let's start to look how we can do this. So let's start to look now how to create crosshair lines that change color at certain values in Chart.js. To do this, first of all, we need to get the default code, which you can find in chartjs3.com. Getting started, this specific link here, which you can find in the description box. Once you're on the site, scroll down and copy this entire chunk of code here. Copy this, and if you want to understand what all this code is, make sure you watch this video here that explains it all. So then I'm going to paste that in there, and once I did that, I'll cut out this and then put that in here. Save, refresh, there we are. So now we have a bar chart. Let's convert it into a line chart. And what I want to do as well, of course, is to make the chart bigger. To make that 1000, I'll just make this line, save, refresh. Alright, that looks slightly better. So now what I want to do is I want to make sure that when we hover over, or not even hover, mouse over within the canvas, it gets the coordinates of the crosshair, and we make a nice circle around it as well. So let's start to draw that. To do this, I need to make sure we're going down here all at the bottom, and then I'm going to say a function, and what I'm going to do here, let's call this our crosshair lines. And then what I want to do here, this here basically must be triggered by a add event listener, and the add event listener should be when we are mouse moving, not even mouse over, but mouse move on the canvas. So what we're going to do here is, what we can say, I'm going to get here my chart, basically that's the object here, but I need to have not the object only, I need to have the dot canvas, because the canvas is where we want to measure the coordinates of the movement of the mouse. So then I'm going to say a dot add event listener to create an event, and we're going to trigger this on mouse move. There's a comma, this event will be registered, and then we create here a callback functionality. And we're going to say here we're going to trigger this specific function here that has two specific arguments. First of all, it's the my chart. It's basically the my chart object, comma e for the event that we trigger here. So once we have this, we can work here on it, and what I will do is I'll just put in multiple enters so we have some more space. So now what I want to do here is, well, first of all, because we have this, I want to put those arguments as parameters in here. I will rename it to chart, and the other one will be a mouse move event. So once we have this, what I want to do now is, first of all, let's grab this, and I'm going to show you what we need here. Basically, we need the console log. Put in this, save, refresh. If I open up my console log now, let's refresh this so it will be suitable. And you can see as I move here, look what we find. We find all of this information, and what we need is basically this one here, the offset X and the offset Y. So those two are basically the calculated amounts based on on the canvas itself, where it calculates at the corner here of the canvas 0.0 and whatever we are moving on based on this here or more. As you can see, we have a lot of additional being added as we move. So that's the most important one. So if I have this, what I want to do here is just say here constant, I'm going to say X coordinates, and then this will be the mouse move dot offset X to grab the X coordinates, and then we have another one here that is the number Y for the offset Y coordinates. So we have the X and Y coordinates in here. Once we have this, I'm going to use now an object destructuring to get the object that are within this here. If you don't know what's an object destructuring, I'm going to recommend you a video which is in the description box. This is very useful for you to watch as well. So what I'm going to do here now is I'm going to say here constant curly braces equals chart. So that is this object here. I'm going to split this out. I'm going to say here CTX because I want to draw on the chart. I want to say chart area, or sorry, I want to draw on the canvas. I want to have the chart area. So you get the coordinates of that, and this will be broken down in top, bottom, left, right. And I think we don't even need the width and the height. Next, what I want to do here, comma, is to say scales. And I'm going to say scales will be x and y coordinates. Or, sorry, not even coordinates, x and y scale variables. So now we have those. What we're going to do now is we're going to just draw a very simple item. First of all, I'm going to say ctx.save to save whatever we have here above. Then I'm going to say here ctx dot, let's say here line width to give it a thickness. So in this case, we'll make the border line, or basically the line itself, 2 pixels in thickness. Next, what I want to do is ctx.stroke style. And I'm going to give you a color. So this is basically the line itself. So in Canvas, when you have a line, but you think about Canvas, you think about painting. If you have a paintbrush and you make a line with your paintbrush, we call it a paintbrush stroke. So basically here, what is the color of the line that you want to assign? In this case, I'm going to use 2 colors. So I'm going to grab these here, but I want to have the upper one and the fourth one here. So let me just put in this, and I'm going to have that one here. So I'm going to prepare this in advance. The upper one is red, and the lower one here right now is green. So I'm going to comment this out, but I'm going to grab the first one here. Later on, we're going to play around with that. So I'm just preparing that in advance. So once I have this, what I want to do here is putting in basically the item. So I'm going to say here ctx dot begin path. And what I want to do here is I want to create a bit different shape than a standard crosshair. I have a other video about that, and I want to make sure that this one is slightly different. It has something extra. So what I'm going to do here is I want to put a circle around it. So let's look at it. We have the begin path here. I'm going to start with a circle. So then what I'm going to say here, ctx.arc. And in the arc, we're going to start, basically there we have 5 variables. We have the x and y, oh sorry, not even 5, there are 6 variables here. X, y, then we have here the radius, comma, and then we have here the angle start, comma, angle end, comma, counterclockwise. So that's counterclockwise, but in this case, I'm going to set this on false because we don't need counterclockwise at all in this case. So now what I have here is the other items, and basically I want to have a circle based on our mouse cursor as we move here. If we move, we should see the circle around our mouse cursor. So I'm going to say the x and y coordinates. Let's put them in there. And for the radius, I'm going to make a 10 pixel radius. And remember, a radius is only a half circle of 10 pixels. So basically from the center of your circle to one side of one ending of the circle, that's 10 pixels. Meaning 2 times radius would be the width of the full circle in diameter. That's 20 pixels. So for the angle here, I'm going to make this easy by converting it from 0 to 360. To do this, what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to make a new constant here above. Say constant, say angle equals math.pi divided by 180. So what you need to understand, 2 pi equals 360. And it's basically the outer edge of the circle, but half only. So 1 pi is 180 degrees. So if I divide this, I will get only 1 degree. And we have 360, so I'm going to here basically to do angle. If you want to have only segments of pi, you can do angle multiplied by 0. But in our case, we can just put in 0. And this one here, angle multiplied by 360. Alright, so now we have this. And if we do this here now, I'm going to say here, ctx.stroke to draw the lines here. So once I did that, I'm going to say ctx.closePath. So to make sure that this is not connected to anything else, save, refresh. So now if I move here our cursor, you get this. But look, it looks like we're drawing here. That's quite nice, but of course this is not what we want. And you can see here, the moment I go on my tooltip, it refreshes everything. So what I want to do is, first of all, I want to remove the tooltip here, and then we're going to fix this issue here. So first of all, let's go up here. I'm going to say here, plugins. I'm going to disable the tooltip, so it's enabled. Tooltip enabled, and then say false, comma. Then what I need to do here is put a comma, because what is really triggering? If I save this, you see here, this worked, but the tooltip is gone. But however, the hit point is still being triggered. So I'm going to say here hit point, or hit radius, that's the right term if I'm not mistaken, hit radius equals 0, comma, then here with the hit point radius, which I need to remove as well, we'll set on 0, and then I guess this is not even the hit radius, it's the point radius, sorry, that should be 0. And finally here the hit, I guess the hit point hover radius, or the hit point, well, let's do hover radius, or I think it's the hover or the hit hover radius. Well, we can check here. Alright, so we have here something. Of course, this is not allowed. We need to make sure we have our values in order. Refresh. Alright, this works. You can see here now. Alright, interesting. So probably I'm missing one. I'm just going to check quickly what that term is. Alright, so after some checking, I should know better. So we have the point, and we have the hit, and we have the hover radius. That is basically what we needed. So sorry about that. These are so identical to each other. They, I guess, they also make me a bit confused. Anyway, so we have this here now. You can see here this works, but of course I want to reset this all afterwards. So what I'm going to do here is, well, let's look here. I need to make sure the chart is changing, or at least being updated every single time. So I'm going to say here chart.update, and then I'm going to say here quotation mark none. What this truly does is basically it'll update the chart, but you will not notice any difference really, except that it will refresh instantly. And that's basically what happens with the tooltip, where the tooltip gradually appears and disappears. And because of that, that will overrule our settings, or at least our drawing here. And this is the reason why we have, that's the reason why I'm forced to disable the tooltip. Alright, so now we have this here. And I will eventually look for a suitable option for that, although I do have one where we make a custom tooltip. But alright, let's continue on. And what I'm going to do now, as you can see here, what I need to solve is, first of all, I want to make sure when I'm outside of the chart area that it will not show. So let's do that one now. And then we're going to say here, we can do that including with this, if, and then what I'm going to say here, if x core, with the coordinate, will be equal or larger than left, and x core will be equal, or sorry, will be smaller or equal to right. So basically what I want to do is, if I hit this coordinates here, stop doing something, and if, same here. So basically we have only within this chart area. And then of course we're going to do this for top and bottom as well. We have the y core will be larger or equal to the top, and y core is smaller or equal to the bottom. So once we do this, okay, this if statement, this will filter out the issue that we have. Save, refresh, and if I move this now, let's look, there we are. You can see here as well, if I refresh right now, it doesn't work in the beginning until you move after it's been fully loaded. Why? Because the animation is being loaded and it refreshes instantly, I think 30 times in 2 seconds. So there's multiple animations being run in here. Alright, so now we have this here. What I want to do now is to have, of course, the lines. And what we're going to do here is we're going to put in the lines, and we're going to say here, just simply ctx.begin path. So I'm going to use again the same item here. And we will not assign any color to the lines or the width because that's here above. So we will use this here, and that will be also applied in there. So then I'm going to say here ctx.move_to, and move_to is a command that requires an x and y value. And basically it's the starting position. In this case, if I'm here, I should have number 10 as starting point all the way to the circle. And I don't want to be even the center, but just on the side of the circle, just the edges of the circle. And the same is from the other edge all the way to the right. And basically same as from up to here and down to wherever it is. So we have, in essence, 4 lines we need to create. So let's start to create them. So we have here the first one is the x and y, and this x and y requires some code. So let's start to think what we need here. Well, basically we need here, we're going to start at the left side, so that's the first one. And then you have here the y. So the y would be the height, in this case the vertical level. So if I want this one here, it would be here, number 10 for example, or whatever, here somewhere. But let's say number 10, that's the easy way to follow along. So then I need to have from this point all the way to Tuesday, basically here. So how do I do that? Well, basically here we're going to say the y core, that is for the vertical level. So once we have this, I'm going to say ctx, and then say line 2. So what is very important, move to will only define the starting point, which is left y, and left would be this point here, and y would be the height. So if you would see it like that, in a chart area with the coordinates, we will go first to the left, there will be X amount of pixels here, because it's this line here, and then we go down X amount of pixels to get here. So that's the X and Y coordinates of that. And then we draw that to there. So we say now line 2. The line 2 is the preparation of drawing the line. This one is the starting point, and this one is basically where we're going to end. That's, well, maybe that's even the right term for it. So what I'm going to do here is, I'm going to say here, X coordinates, I want to do there. And then I say comma, I'm going to put in here the, I guess we want to be in the same position or same height. So we say Y coordinates. If I do this, I say ctx dot, and then we can say here stroke to draw the line, and ctx dot close pad. Alright, so once we save this, refresh, and let's see what we have here. As you can see here, this works, but we're hitting the center of the circle. And I did this on purpose, so now we can calculate how do we reduce the amount of the center. Well, let me show you. Basically, as I told you previously, we had here the radius, this one here. Let's give this a nice constant. Radius equals 10 pixels. So that, because this is only the half of the circle, basically the radius is one side, from one side to the center, and from one side to the other side is what we call a diameter. So we have the radius here, and basically what you need to do here then is just to deduct radius. Save, refresh. Look at that, there we are. Alright, so now we have this, and now you might say, alright, you just have to duplicate this four more times. That is possible, but it's quite redundant. So let's do it more differently. So I'm going to create a new function here, and I'll call this lines. And then in the lines here, what I'm going to do here is I'm going to move those within there. So once I have this, what I want to do now is put in 4 parameters here. And the parameters is basically the order that we have here of those. So what we can do here, well, let's see, this is the first one. This is basically what we call X start. So the X start is here, and then we have here next, this one here, the Y coordinate was the starting point for the Y. So we say Y start. Then what we have here is this part, we will be the ending basically. So we can say here, X end, and then we have another one here is comma Y end. So once we have this, basically these can be all placed, but what I will do is first I'm going to copy this, put it in here as a function to operate, and then I'm going to copy all of those, put it in here. Once we did that, then we can replace all of these parameters with our hard-coded values. Let's copy that and put them in here. And let's copy those and put them in here. If I save this now, let's see what happened. Refresh and then move. There we are. So nothing basically has changed visually, but under the hood or behind the scenes, we have done a lot of adjustments. So now what I want to do is continue on and do the other lines. How can we do that? Well, we can just copy this, put it in here, and just have to use, we just need to use the same logic here, except now in the opposite direction. So if we are left, we want to move now to the right side here. So this should be right. And then instead of negative, we want to do plus. And if I save this now, refresh, there we are. Look at that. That's absolutely phenomenal. So now we have that, and I guess you already figured out how are we going to do the remaining ones. Well, we have to do again a mirror reflection, but in this case, what we need to do is we need to focus on this here. So here will be X core, and this will be now a hard-coded top, and this one here will probably can be removed, because this should be, let me think, alright, so this is slightly mirror reflection, so I need to rethink on that one, but let's do the bottom here. And the bottom, and then here, let's see, this should be probably the X core. Let me just test this. It's slightly a mind twister, because we have to think exactly the opposite. So probably here, what I need to do for the bottom, I need to make sure, or maybe we don't even need the bottom here. I think this needs to be the Y. Well, let's see first. Alright, let's move this. As you can see here, we're going too far, and what I need to do is I need to hit the Y point, which is what I thought. So in here, we're going to have the Y point, but now plus or minus radius. It's almost the opposite or mirror reflection of this one here. Let's save that, refresh. Alright, there we are. So now, final target is this one here. We're going to say here the right, I guess we can say here X core again. I'm going to focus here on bottom, because I want to start at the very bottom down here, at this point here, going to wherever I want. So then I'm going to say here, this will be X core, but probably here, okay, remove that, and put it on the Y core, and then we do a plus. If I save that, refresh, look at this. Alright, so now we have this nice unique shape, and it's slightly different than my other video. And what I want to do, of course, is final one is the color. So how do we do this? Well, we're going to create an if statement here. Now we're going to say if, and this if statement will say the following: if the let's see, what I want to do is, so for example, let me explain this so you understand what we're doing. For example, I want to highlight 10, so everything above 10, I want to make the crosshair, in that case, green. If it's below 10, we're going to convert it into the red color we have. So let's start to look at that. So how do we do that? And we're going to say if the Y coordinates, then we're going to say here is smaller or equal to, and then the reason why smaller or equal to, because the upper part starts at 0, and then down here is halfway, and then here we're going down, that's the full height basically. So that is just canvas logic. So let's look at this. So we have this one, and then what I want to do here, so if the Y core would be smaller or equal to, and I'm going to say here the Y, and that's why we have the scales here, Y dot, and I'm going to say get pixel for the value. So what's the pixel I want? So if I want to have a 10, I want to get what is the pixel if we have the value of 10 on the Y here. So we're going to say here get pixel for value, and there's a number 10 in this case. So once we have this, what I want to do then is if this, then we're going to put in this color. I guess that's the red color. Then we say else, we put in this one here. So we do this as the red color, and here I want this green. So green is the second color here, and we're going to put that in there. Save, refresh. So now there we are, and if we go down underneath 10, there we are. And of course we could change this. Maybe we could do any other value, like this is number 18. I don't know. Let's say we want to grab this value here on Friday, which is index 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Alright, so this is index 4 on Friday. So what I'm going to do is here, object destructuring, I'm going to grab here the data object. Let's get this, and then I'm going to say here, so we have it hard coded, we say here data dot data sets index 0. So if you're wondering why I'm doing this, basically the data object is this object here. We have this direct access to that because we're using the chart object. This chart here equals my chart, and remember our reference here, and that is this name here, which is basically applied everywhere else. Alright, so that's very important. So then you have this, let's look from data to data sets, data, and I'm going to get index number 4, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's 12. So let's grab that one here, say dot data index 4. Save this, refresh. Now if I move this, there we are, based on our number here. And that's basically what we can do here with the crosshair, and there's so much more I guess you can do with this, and this is just a fun tiny item to play around with. So if you enjoyed this video and maybe you want to do even more, putting in tooltips and do all kinds of things, I'm going to recommend you one of my favorite video series here, which is a very advanced one. But here we're doing all kind of adjustments. And this is basically the coin market cap chart in Chart.js series, where we're going to create a chart very similar to the coin market cap chart, which is very advanced and has so many bells and whistles on there, but it's really fun. It will create the crosshair as well, tooltips as well, how we can get the tooltips working together with the crosshair, scales, unique scales, zoom in, dragging, panning, going to the left and right. All these kind of options are in this entire video series. It's one of almost 50 videos here. Highly recommend it if you are interested in an advanced item.